So let's recap. We've talked about life, we've talked about children, we've talked about, we've talked about love, we've talked about marriage, we've talked about children, and now we've talked about eating and drinking. So there's some really existential stuff in there, there's some very temporal stuff in there. So love is existential, marriage is temporal. Existential meaning it's like a big, grand thing to talk about. And it's kind of hard to understand or wrap your head around. Marriage, it's temporal. It's pretty well understood by the layman. A lot of people get married, and the ceremonies for marriage are pretty well laid out, so it's very temporal. So there's a dichotomy there. We've talked about children, again, a very temporal idea. So children, how you take care of kids is pretty well understood. You should take care of your kids and love them and nurture them. So he reflected on that and kind of reaffirmed a lot of that. And then finally, we just talked about eating and drinking, which is kind of temporal too. But in each of these, Gibran is keeping it really, really concise. He's keeping it really, really tight, and he's able to draw some pretty existential questions or some existential talks or things from these very temporal or down-to-earth things. So now, let's talk about work. So this is a more existential thing. We're talking about work and labor and things like that. Then a plowman said, "Speak to us of work." And he answered, saying, "You work that you may keep pace with the earth and the soul of the earth. To be idle is to become a stranger unto the seasons, and to step out of one's life's procession, and that marches in majesty and proud submission towards the infinite. When you work, you are a flute through whose heart the whispering of the hours turns to music. Which of you would be a reed, dumb and silent, when all else sings together in unison? Always you have been told that work is a curse and labor a misfortune. But I say to you that when you work and you fulfill a part of earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when the dream was born, and in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's innermost secret. But if you, in your pain, call birth an affliction, and the support of the flesh a curse written upon your brow, then I answer that not but the sweat of your brow shall wash away that which is written. You have been told also that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo that was said by the weary. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save where there is urge. And all urge is blind, save that which there is knowledge. And all knowledge is in vain, save what there is work. And all work is empty, save that where there is love. And when you work with love, you bind yourself to yourself, and to one another, and to God. And what is it to work with love? Is it to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as your beloved were to wear that cloth? Is it to build a house with affection, even as your beloved were to dwell in that house? Is it to sow seeds with tenderness, and to reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved went to eat the fruit? Is it to change all that you fashion with the branch of your own spirit, and to know all that the blessed dead are standing about you and are watching? Often have I heard you say, as if speaking in sleep, he who works in marble and finds the shape of his own soul in the stone is nobler than he who plows the soil. And he who seizes the rainbow to lay it on the cloth in the likeness of a man is more than he who makes sandals for our feet. But I say, not in sleep, but in over-wakefulness, of noontide, that the wind speaks not more sweetly to the giant oaks than to the least of all the blades of grass. And he alone is great who turns the voice of wind into a song made sweeter by his own loving. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distance, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple, and take alms of those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half a man's hunger. And if you grudge the crushing of the grapes, you grudge distills a poison in the wine. And if you sing as though angels, and not love the singing, you muffle a man's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. Interesting. So, Gibran here is not purporting anything new. He's basically saying that you should love what you do. But I think that he dives into a lot more of the reasoning behind it. This is one of Gibran's longer poems, I would say, and I think it's because he feels so passionately about this. I want to draw your attention to the stanza here, that when he's saying all of these and all urge and all knowledge and all work and that sort of thing, this kind of rapid fire stanza that he's doing here. You have been told also that life is darkness, and your weariness you echo, what say that be weary? And I say that life is indeed darkness, save where there is urge. And all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge. So you have to know what you desire in order to find that light. And all knowledge is vain, save when there is work. So your knowledge should bring you to your work. So you should understand your work, and you should work in a place that you are knowledgeable. And all work is empty, save where there is love. So you should love what you do, along with all those other things. And when you work with love, you bind yourself and to one another and to God. So it's interesting that he's outlining all of this, because it reminds me a lot of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I don't know if any of you guys have studied psychology, but Maslow basically outlined a hierarchy of our needs as human beings. And the first one is just to survive, and it goes all the way up through like self-actualization and self-realization, which is understanding what it is that you're meant to do and then going and doing that, which is basically the purpose for life, as he puts it. And so Gibran is actually breaking it down right here, kind of saying all this at once. So life is indeed darkness, save where there is urge. So you have to have desire to do something, or your life is going to be completely dark and completely boring. And all urge, or desire as I'm putting it, is blind, save where there is knowledge. So you have to understand why you have desires. You have to understand why it is that you urge towards something. And all knowledge is vain, save where there is work. So you have to work at understanding what it is that you want to do. And once you understand what it is that you want to do, then your life can have light. Otherwise, it's darkness. So he's building on top of these things, one after the other. And all work is empty, save where there is love. So unless you're doing something that you love, that is built upon the knowledge that you have gained from working, which is built upon the urge that you understand that you need to work, which is what gives life meaning. So it's all coming together here. Then you are finally actualizing, and you're doing what you love. And that is to be near God, as he puts it. And it binds you to people around you. So when you do what you are meant to do, and you have like gone through those steps, when you have realized that there's a desire to work, that you understand what it is that you want to do, and that you work and you do that thing with love, then and only then are you really working, and will you really enjoy yourself. And to do anything less is to leave yourself in utter darkness and utter shambles. So I like that stanza a lot. He's basically outlining it and just drawing it up for you. So that's work and labor.